It had been the summer of that year. 6 full weeks to piss about and do absolutely nothing. So when a good friend of mine extended his usual invite to hang about at his house, how could I say no? His house was one of those old farmhouses. Not quite decrepit, but certainly not far off it. 16 acres of land sprawling across the British countryside that most notably led out into a wood. There had been all sorts of stories about it, or at least my friend told me so. Did I take him seriously? No. No, of course I didn't. And looking back on it, I don't even think he was taking himself seriously. It was all rubbish about ghosts and whatnot. Some poor woman had hung herself however long ago, and her wailing spirit had wandered betwixt the trees ever since, blah blah blah. Yeah, I don't really remember the details. It's been a while since this all happened. The dusk faded as the sun fell below the horizon. The plan was simple. We would sneak out after his parents fell asleep and, kick about in the woods. We were never the smartest bunch, to be honest. It was the closest we can get to camping, and I guess that's all the incentive we needed. Darkness swallowed what had been left of the light, and we sat in the garden. There had been 3 of us that night. From memory, we told ghost stories or something. Again, I'm sorry, it's just been a while. Anyway, we saw the lights in the house dissipate, and we were left the dull crackle of the fire and the soft glow of its dying embers. With a somewhat startling clap of his hands, Richard jolted from his seat.
Right then, my dear friends, let's get to work.
His tone was clearly mocking. Josh hadn't been looking so hot all night, and whether that was from fear or his overconsumption of marshmallows, I really couldn't tell. Though the answer is pretty obvious looking back on it. The 2 of them had been my good friends for years. They had been with me through, well, everything you could think of. Bullying, breakups, and broken bones included. I gave Josh a reassuring pat on the back, and the 3 of us started towards the woods. Silence permeated the expedition. I think we were all scared shitless, to be honest, and just too far proud to admit it. Hell, I like the woods. During the day, that is, when the crunch of a leaf or the snap of a twig doesn't send you reeling in search of an imaginary murderous cannibal. We had been moving in silence for maybe 10 minutes when Josh spoke up.
This is boring. Can we just go back and...
His voice was cut off abruptly by Richard, who in a low whisper and through gritted teeth said,
Shut up. You think we're quiet because we want to?
He cocked his head, and I could see the panicked expression carved onto his face. He held a pale finger to his lips.
I don't want to get done in by the gamekeeper. These woods aren't all mine, and well, they say he's a bit... crazy.
The irony of his condemnation of speech was funny to me at the time. After all, we were shining flashlights through the trees like lunatics. Even now, I doubt being quiet would have ever kept us concealed. Over the tree trunk and river, we crept, and I began to question Richard's decision to leave out the crazy gamekeeper, and why we'd really come out in the first place. Our flashlights illuminated the suffocating confines of the darkness. Like headlights, they searched over tree after tree after. Then, there they were. 3 tallies carved like crooked fingers into the soft flesh of a single tree's trunk. I remember running my fingers through the grooves in the wood. They were rough and crude and seemingly pointless. We moved on soon after, the hysteria over that tally of doom fading back into the usual silence. Boredom had set in. Why exactly had Richard made us come out here, and why had we obliged? I had thought at the big age of 13 I was grown up, spared from fear. But how wrong I had been. The enforced silence made it worse. I heard every creak in the trees, every muntjack's howl as it pierced the silence like a bullet, and every footstep upturning freshly fallen leaves. Step after step, my feet ached. I hadn't brought my walking shoes, and that had been my main concern at the time. By this point, I had the rhythm of our steps down. Richard had heavier steps, while Josh had lighter ones. And well, I knew my own. That's why I found it so odd when a fourth set began crunching in the leaves, somewhere behind us. The silence continued. I said nothing as if ignoring it meant it wasn't happening. My flashlight groped the bark of the trees as I tried to block out the thought of the gamekeeper being behind me. But then, there it was again. The trio of tallies. Richard looked up and let out a sigh, and muttered a series of incessant swears.
God damn it.
His voice echoed off the trees and through the empty air. I opened my mouth to respond, but, in his usual fashion, he silenced me with a wild gesture.
Look, I don't want to hear it. I know we've gone in circles and whatever. I just went the wrong way, that's all.
A fruitless attempt to quiet the discontent arising in our party, it reassured me even less than it had him. I turned to Josh, and we exchanged some whispered banter at the expense of our not-so-gracious tour guide, who had already taken off into the dark, this time in the opposite direction. Together, we walked for maybe another 20 minutes. Time really wasn't a concept in that endless darkness. I was contented, I suppose. At the very least, our footsteps were once again very much alone. Soon we eventually swapped the scenery for a dewy field. We'd finally reached the forest boundary. We all sighed in relief, far more startled than we were letting on, or at least I was. Richard pointed to the far side of the clearing, to a cluster of trees doing a poor job of concealing a lake hiding behind them, like a toddler playing hide-and-seek. This is what he actually wanted to show us, and to his credit, it was beautiful. We started into the grass. It was taller than us, or at least it felt like it was. One foot after the other, we snuck closer and closer to our journey's end. I couldn't see my companions. They, like me, were just having so much fun traversing the grasping confines of wet grass. Coughing and sputtering, I, like a cascade, crashed out from the field and right back into familiar surroundings. The woods. Thorns and nettles prickled in my backside as I pulled myself from their grip into my feet. Soon after me came Josh in a similar fashion. I had helped him to his feet, expecting the third of our band to emerge, but he never did. My best friend, for years, through everything in the last I would know of him, was only a scream. Like a miasma, it hung in the air, almost tangible, and for what seemed like an eternity we just stood there, frozen, and unable to react. Joss's jaw was slack, and its words came out, a barely perceivable cacophony of whimpers and cries.
The gatekeeper. Is it him? You heard those footsteps before, right?
I said nothing, and did nothing. Not a word in any language could have, or would have assured him, or me. Our eyes locked for but a moment, as another scream tore through the silence, followed by a great tumult from the woods in which we stood. Back into the grass we ran, tearing, ripping and weaving through the blades as they tried to constrict us and deliver us to the same fate as our friend. Into a clearing I collapsed. The bank of the lake stretched out in front of me, a journey's end. Silence was all that followed me. I turned and shone my flashlight like a lighthouse into a storm, and prayed it would lead Josh straight to me. But it never did. Alone with my thoughts, I slumped on that desolate bank, the water still and calm. I looked out into the dark. Despite the valiant efforts of my flashlight, it did not penetrate the void of the lake. I threw a pebble into the surface and wept. I wanted my mom. I just wanted to go home. I remember thinking of all the possibilities. That my friends were dead, murdered by some crazy old bastard in the woods, and soon I would unfortunately join them. I don't know how long I sat there, to be honest, throwing pebbles into that mirror as it reflected my sorry state. I don't know how long I muttered that lament for my friends. Tears stung the corner of my eyes as they carved their way down my flushed cheeks. The ripples of the impacted water came back to me until I ran out of stones to throw. From that place, I didn't want to stir. I didn't want to face what was in those woods, whether it was the crazed gamekeeper or the ghosts. And in a selfish way, I didn't care. I had wanted the mud of the bank to engulf me, or for me to wake up entirely. I quietly begged it had all just been a nightmare. With my head in my hands, I began to drift into sleep, my tears using my hands as a slide to fall and to loot into the mud. Once again, I fell into a rhythm, a twisted lullaby as I faded in and out of consciousness. The rustling of the leaves in the wind as it caressed the trees soothing me. Then came a soft rippling of the water. It had been at least 20 minutes since I cast my last stone. The intensity of the rippling increased, and I scrambled to my feet. Whatever had taken my friends was now here for me. Up the bank I fled, and yet I couldn't. It had been far easier for me to come down than it was to get back up. The mud turned to slop under my grasp, and I slipped and writhed as I desperately tried to clamber to my salvation. My fingers tugged on the blades of the grass at the bank's pinnacle. They ripped and tore as I failed to pull myself up and over. "Please! No! Leave me alone!" I began to plead with whatever was behind me. My voice was shrill, and now more than ever my tears stung. Silent went the world at my cries. The rippling altogether stopped, and I kept my face buried in the damp earth. Seconds, minutes, hours must have passed. I don't even know how long it was before I turned around, and I wish I never did. The water ran sanguine as a mass drifted onto the shore. Not long, congealed blood clung to its face, glinting in response to my abandoned flashlight's beam. Out of their sockets, its eyes bulged, pupils dilated into deep, blackened, moon-shaped pools. Twisted was its mouth, teeth missing, whether from age or death, I couldn't tell. It seemed to scream at me, and I screamed back. The police found me on the bank the next morning, and to be honest, I don't remember what happened after or before they did. My friends, much like me, were soon found, and after the events of that night, we kind of drifted in and out of friendship. A shame, I suppose, but I guess it was for the best. It's been maybe 7 or 8 odd years now, since that night, and I've never really moved on. The woods were fully searched, and of course the body that, well, found me on the bank was the gamekeeper. He'd been missing for a week. That fact had all but confirmed my worst fears. There had been someone or something in those woods with us that night. I went to therapy, and to some support groups, and, well, perhaps I would have forgotten about it all entirely. I mean, after the first few years, I actually did. Repressed in the deepest recesses of my brain, I kept it. Until today. For the first time in my life, I no longer live with my parents. I found a farmhouse for rent out in the countryside, close to my university. Eerily cheap, and now I suppose I know the reason. Today I stepped outside, and I don't know why. I was pulled. Like it was a pre-existing thought, if you get what I mean. My new abode leads out into the woods, and on the tree, nearest to my property, were 2 tallies. Hey, if you made it this far into the video, thank you for watching. This whole story was actually a lot of fun to make. And I just want to give a shout out to the author, username King of the Nugs on Reddit. This author is pretty much making a series and has given me permission to narrate it. So I'm looking forward. There's going to be more installments sometime in the next few weeks, so stay tuned. And second, I want to especially give thanks to the two narrators, YouTubers who helped me narrate the parts of Richard and Josh. I've had both of them on the channels before. Much love and gratitude to both Kai Faden and the Chilly Shiver Chronicles. Definitely go check out their channels. I'm going to post links to their channels down below in the description. Again, very much thank you both for the amazing voice work you did. I'm looking forward to the stories they're going to be posting in the near future. I'm just going to take this opportunity really quick to give a short channel update. First and foremost, I am on my way trying to save up money right now to buy a new mic with much better quality. And second, I have been reaching out to a lot of both people on various subreddits like No Sleep, Creepypasta, authors that I'm going to be working on in the future and getting more series and more just fun stories to tell in general. I've been reaching out to other narrators as well, and I'm hoping to do some more collaborations with other diverse voices in the future. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to the next few months of stuff coming out. And if you liked this video, go ahead and give it a like, comment, and if it so behooves you, subscribe. Stay tuned for more parts, and thank you once again for watching. Take care, everybody, and have a good night.